I love Sam Marshnick, and that's why I'm here, because of my respect for Sam. And I actually met Sam on that mission trip that he talked about earlier going on. And I think that was my first mission trip ever too. And I met Sam and John and Dave Wrigley, a bunch of guys on that trip. And I almost feel like Tampa is my second home, because it seems like about 20 days out of the year I'm down here staying with John or John Bycheck or some of my friends down here. I love Tampa, love this area. My wife and I, we first got married, we lived in Tampa. I played for the Tampa Tarpons. I don't know if there's probably not many of you remember that team, but it was the Reds affiliate, played at Al Lopez Field with Dale Mabry. And actually, I had gotten released from the Montreal Expos organization. And when I got released, I got engaged. I asked my wife if she would marry me, and so I thought my baseball career was over, and I started missing baseball, called up a scout for the Cincinnati Reds and said, hey, I missed the game, will you give me a shot? So they signed me to a contract, and I was down here playing for Tampa, and they gave me 4 days off to get married. And so, flew back to Kentucky, and then drove. And listen to this, this is really good. You ladies are going to love this, because you're going to think, if only my husband were to treat me that good. We stayed at Silver Springs, that's where we spent our honeymoon, Silver Springs up there at my old house. So I'm a big spender, but that's the life of a minor league baseball player. But love this area and glad to be here. You know, I've watched, since I met Sam, back on that missions trip, I watched him from a distance, and I've seen the kind of man that he's become. I've seen the kind of husband he's become. I've seen the kind of father he's become. And I've seen the type of follower of Christ he's become. And that's why I'm here, because I just, that's a changed life. That's what SCORE is all about. It's like Sam mentioned earlier, it's not just about going down to the Dominican Republic and helping those people. That's a big part of what we do. And we also do things in Costa Rica, Panama, and a lot of other places. But it's about getting people from here in the States to go with us and watching their lives change, just like mine was the first trip I went on. So if you haven't done something like that, if you haven't been on a short-term mission trip, I really encourage you to go. There's a lot of people in this room that have been, and I look around and I see people that's been down there on what we call the November Baseball Outreach, and it's a great time. I was 52 years old when I went on my first short-term mission trip, and I wished I had been 16 when I went on my first one. I think I would be a different person now. But Sam's coaching now. I coached for 28 years. And I'm going to tell you, Sam is way ahead of me right now as compared to when I first started coaching. When I first started coaching, it was all about wins. It was all about getting the best recruit, all about making sure that my guys were performing the best of their ability. And those things are all good. There's nothing wrong with that. We want to win. And I know Sam wants to win. But where he's ahead of me when I first started coaching is that he also knows that it's about relationships. It's about building those relationships with the players. I didn't learn that until I got really deep into my coaching career. And once I learned that I had an assistant coach on my staff, I got to tell you this story. And he was a great baseball man. He played a long time in pro ball, and I mean, this guy really knew the game. He was a catcher when he was in pro ball, and he was a tough guy, and he was a baseball guy through and through. And when I would go recruiting and leave practice to him, every time that would happen, every time I would leave and he ran practice, the next day there'd be 2 or 3 players in my office complaining about, Coach, you can't believe what, I'm not going to say his name, somebody might know it, but you're not going to believe what he made us do, and blah, blah, blah. And you can't believe how he talked to me and how he treated me. And this went on and on and on. And finally, in the second year of this, I called him into my office. I said, look, I got to ask you a question. Why do you coach? He said, because I love the game. I said, that's not enough. You have to love the players that love the game. So you see, baseball coaches coach players. They don't coach baseball. They coach baseball players. And that's why I'm so excited about what Sam and his staff are doing, because they're going to do it the right way. Not only are they going to teach guys a high level of baseball, they're going to do it the right way. They're going to have, you know, the best I mean, when I look at their staff and the experience they have and the knowledge they have, it's phenomenal. But they're also going to love the players that play the game. And that's going to make a big difference. And they're going to bring players from the Dominican Republic and incorporate them on the team. You talk about a great cross-cultural experience. That's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing, and I just appreciate y'all coming out and supporting him in that way. When I think about what Sam and his staff are doing, I can't help but think about my favorite story in the Bible. There's a story in the Bible that's found in the 5th chapter of Luke. And it's a story, many of you will remember the story when I start talking about it, but it's that story where these guys had a friend that was paralyzed. And they heard that Jesus was going to be in this particular house in their village. And they wanted to take their paralyzed friend to Jesus because they had heard that Jesus was healing. And so they loved this man enough to put him on a mat, and they carried him through the street. And when they get to the house where Jesus was teaching and healing, it was so crowded they couldn't get this man in. Now these guys that carried this paralyzed man, Luke doesn't tell us their names. I have no idea what their names are, but they are my heroes because of what they did for this paralyzed man. They carried him all the way through the streets. They get there, the house is too crowded. They didn't give up. Instead, they carried him up on the roof. They took the tile off the roof, and Luke tells us that they lowered him down and they placed this man right in front of Jesus. Now those are teammates, right? Those are the kind of players that we all want. Those are the kind of people we want in our organization. Those are the kind of coaches that Sam and the staff are going to be. I call them mat carriers because they don't have a name in the Bible. Now, if you can imagine Jesus in a crowded house, and all of a sudden you hear a noise, and dust starts coming down, and all of a sudden you see some light come through the roof, and then the next thing you see is this man being lowered down on a mat. You're thinking, what is going on here? But Luke tells us they lowered him down, and you know what Jesus said when he saw this man, this paralyzed man on the mat? He said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." And then he said, "Because of their faith, your sins are forgiven." It wasn't the faith of the paralyzed man. It was the faith of the mat carriers. That's why they're my heroes. That's exactly what Sam and his staff are going to be. They're going to be mat carriers. They're going to have players from the Tampa area and perhaps all over the country on their team. They're going to have players from the Dominican Republic on their team. They're going to be having Bible studies for those kids. They're going to be teaching them the right way to play the game. And they're going to be teaching them the right way to live their lives. And that's what gets me excited, because believe me, when you coach for 28 years, you've seen a lot of different kind of coaches. And I'm telling you, I still go to a lot of high school games. I still go to a lot of college games. And when I go to high school games and I hang out around the dugout, I'm amazed at the language I hear coming out of the dugouts. It's horrendous. I mean, I played minor league baseball. I'm hearing things coming out of high school dugouts that I didn't even hear when I played minor league baseball. That's saying something. That culture's got to change. You know, somehow we've been sold a bill of goods that in order to be a good coach, you've got to use horrible language. You've got to yell and scream. No. You've got to have knowledge, and you've got to love your players, and you've got to be a good teacher. That's what, I mean, I think of John Wooden. You know, John Wooden, even though I'm a Kentucky guy, and I love Kentucky basketball, and in John Wooden's last game, UCLA beat Kentucky in the finals of the NCAA championship. Even having said all that, I'm still a John Wooden fan. Because John Wooden's the first guy I ever heard say this: players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You know, we've all heard that, but that is a tremendous thing to remember. Whether we're a coach, or whether we're in business, or whether we're in education, you know, you can have all this knowledge, but if the people that you're sharing with, if they don't know that you care, they're not going to be those sponges. They're not going to absorb it. And knowing Sam the way I do, I just think it's going to be a tremendous, tremendous opportunity for a lot of young people to not only get to know baseball better, but also get to know Jesus Christ. And when you establish a relationship with Christ, now your life changes for the best. You know, I had the opportunity today to be with John Zeller. He led 2 different Bible studies. One was a couples Bible study, and the other one was for the Tampa Yankees. And I was just sitting there listening to him teach, and I thought, especially with the Tampa Yankees and these young men, I'm thinking, boy, I needed that. I needed that desperately when I was a young player. But we didn't have it back in those days. I was just telling John today, you know, when I played minor league baseball, I went from spring training all the way through September without ever going to church. And I was a believer. But we didn't have those opportunities. And now guys have it, and I see that that's what's going to happen with Sam's team too. You know, they're going to have Bible study. They're going to be taught integrity and character and all the things that are really important. You know, it's great to learn how to throw a slider. It's great to learn how to throw a changeup. It's great to learn how to make a backhand play on the infield. But you know, we're only going to play for so long. What Sam and his staff are going to do is they're going to teach players how to be husbands, how to be fathers, how to be good citizens, and how also to be followers of Jesus Christ. Can't think of anything else I'd rather support than that. But I want to finish with this. I told you that story about the mat carriers. There's a lot of neat things that happened there. First of all, these guys were, you know, they persevered. They didn't give up. They took their friend to Jesus. That's what we should all do. We should all take our friends to Jesus. And when Jesus saw this guy, this is a thing that I always remember. He called him friend. You know, he didn't point his finger and say, "What are you doing interrupting my meeting? What are you doing? You know, will somebody please take this guy to the back of the room?" No. He said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." And why didn't he just say, "Hey, you're healed, go"? Because Jesus knew what was really important. He looks at our hearts, and he knows that that's eternal. He knew that that body was going to waste away anyway in the future. So he went right to the heart of the matter and said, friend, your sins are forgiven. Then everybody started, you know, murmuring and talking, and all these Pharisees and teachers of the law, they said, who does he think he is that he can forgive sins? And all of a sudden Jesus said, I know what you're thinking, so that you'll know that I can forgive sins. Pick up your mat and go home. And the paralyzed man took up his mat and he went home. So Jesus cares about the spiritual and he cares about the physical. That's why I think baseball, because I'm an old baseball coach, I think baseball is a great, great vehicle to use to teach young men not only to be good baseball players, but also to teach them spiritual values. Because God cares about both. He cares about the physical and he cares about the spiritual. And I just applaud for Sam and his staff for taking on this task. It's not a small task. You start recruiting players from third world countries and finding places to live and helping them to adjust to our way of life. And then you start blending American athletes with Dominican athletes. It's not an easy task. He needs prayer. He needs financial support. He needs encouragement. He and his entire staff do. So that's what I want to challenge you. I came down here for that purpose, to challenge you, to pray for him and his staff, pray for the team, and also to support him and encourage him. And that's my challenge to you tonight. Thanks for letting me share with you. You know, again, I love Sam. I love what he's doing. And I know you're going to, some of the players that he coached, you're going to see those guys probably play in the big leagues someday. And when they get to the big leagues, now Sam and his staff will have influenced them. And when they get to the big leagues, they'll influence other players. And it just, you know, that's the way God works. We have an opportunity to influence people. And so we need to get behind that effort. Thanks a lot. God bless you.